My boyfriend, Leo Vance, and I had built a business from the ground up. This year, its performance had gone far beyond what we had ever hoped for, and I was already making plans to use my share of the profits to buy myself a new car and put a down payment on a small house. Then, one evening, while we were going over the financials, Leo took my hand in his touch gentle. "Clara," he said softly, "we're still waiting on the final payments from a couple of major clients. It would probably be best if you held off on withdrawing your bonus for just a little while." I slowly pulled my hand from his, managing a calm smile that felt unnatural on my face. Inside, a cold, bitter feeling was already spreading through my chest. If I hadn't, by complete chance, seen a bank transfer confirmation showing that he had sent $500,000 to another woman, I might have actually believed his story. But since he wanted to play games, I decided I would simply pull my entire investment out of the company. Leo, thinking my silence was agreement, drew me into a hug, whispering affectionately in my ear, "I knew you'd understand, Clara. You're always so considerate." The image of that bank transfer was burned into my memory. I had found it by accident one afternoon when I logged into our shared business account and saw the wire to a woman named Nina Croft. My first instinct was to give him the benefit of the doubt, to imagine that perhaps she was in some kind of serious trouble and needed help. But now here he was, telling me the business was short on cash and I couldn't access my own money. It felt like a sick joke. Nina was his childhood friend, the woman he always called his little sister. But I couldn't think of any reason someone would need to send that kind of money to a sister. I kept my expression carefully neutral and adopted a tone of mild annoyance. The thing is, I already talked to the real estate agent. If I don't put the deposit down on that apartment soon, the price is going to increase after the holidays. That's an extra $50,000 down the drain. I just hate the idea of all my hard work turning into pure profit for some property developer, I explained, framing my concern around real estate instead of his obvious betrayal. Leo hesitated. We had looked at that apartment together, a place we had talked about making into our first real home. It was in a great neighborhood with good schools, a place to build a future. He knew as well as I did that the only reason I would need to withdraw that much money right now was for the down payment. "Just give me a little more time," he said finally. "Let me see if I can figure something out." I patted his arm and gave him a reassuring smile, playing along with his charade. "Or you could just tell me which clients have the outstanding invoices. We could split them up and follow up with them individually. That would probably be faster." We had always managed separate projects, but our client lists had significant overlap. In fact, I had been the one to bring in most of the major accounts he now managed. The suggestion made him visibly uncomfortable, but he recovered quickly. "There's no need for that. I'll take care of it. You just focus on your projects. I'll handle everything." I didn't have the time or the patience to continue this game. I needed to know exactly where that $500,000 had gone. The next day, I arranged to have lunch with our company's head of finance. From the very beginning, I had insisted that we outsource our human resources and finance departments to a third-party firm. I didn't want personal relationships to complicate business or create confusion over responsibilities, and Leo had agreed. Our current finance manager, Dana, happened to be a friend from my university days, a connection Leo knew nothing about. I had also made sure to place a few other people I trusted in key positions within the company, just in case. When it came to money, I knew better than to be naive. As soon as we sat down at the restaurant, Dana got straight to the point. "Clara, I need to be honest with you. Leo has been financially supporting a woman who doesn't work for the company. He's been having us process a payment of $20,000 to her every single month." I stared at her, completely stunned. "Why are you just telling me this now?" "I only just found out myself," she explained. "We have someone on the payroll named Nina. A few weeks ago, one of my junior accountants got sick and asked me to help her process the attendance reports for the month. That's when I noticed something odd. This Nina woman had no time card entries at all, yet she was listed as having perfect attendance every single month. I pulled her employee file and saw that while she's officially listed under a subsidiary, nobody seems to have any idea who she is. I asked around discreetly, but everyone I talked to came up blank. It was only after I pressed the junior accountant several times that she finally admitted Leo had instructed her to do it. Dana had been hesitant to tell me, afraid that it would cause a major fight between Leo and me. But now that I had come to her asking questions, she couldn't keep it to herself any longer. According to the financial records, Leo had been transferring money to Nina since the year before last. Between the monthly payments and what he listed as bonuses, Nina had become one of the highest paid individuals associated with the company, earning nearly $1 million a year without doing a single day of actual work. I clenched my fists under the table. He could cheat on me if he wanted to, but he had no right to use my money to do it. That was money I had earned, and I was going to make sure he paid back every single cent with interest. I took a deep, steadying breath and looked at Dana. I've made my decision. I'm going to leave and start my own venture. Are you with me? Dana looked shocked for a moment, then she understood. She hesitated, looking down at her hands. Clara, you know how difficult it is to find a good job right now, and She trailed off, but I knew what she meant. It's all right, I said, my voice even. I understand, but please just keep this conversation between us. Dana nodded quickly. Of course, you have my word. With that assurance, I began to prepare my next steps. That evening, I started reaching out to several of our most important clients to arrange dinners. It was the end of the year, a time full of company banquets and holiday parties with plenty of food and wine flowing. I had done my fair share of hard drinking in the past to close important deals. The worst time, I had ended up with a bleeding stomach ulcer. I had actually vomited blood in front of the client, who was horrified. Even then, I had insisted on signing the contract before I would let anyone take me to the hospital. After that incident, the client started calling me fearless, and my reputation in the industry was solidified. Our company began to grow, but the damage to my health was permanent. Now, however, was not the time to show any weakness. I also privately contacted the wives of a few major clients. I needed a contingency plan, an extra layer of insurance. After all the arrangements were made, I headed home. To my surprise, Leo was there, wearing an apron and coming out of the kitchen with a smile. You're back, he said happily. Dinner is almost ready, just one more dish. I dropped my bag on the sofa and watched him as he moved around the kitchen. On an impulse, I picked up his phone from the coffee table. The moment Leo saw me holding it, his entire body tensed. What are you doing? Are you checking up on me? No, I replied, keeping my voice casual. I was just curious about something. I showed him the screen. The same robot vacuum cleaner costs $300 more on your account than it does on mine. It must be that dynamic pricing algorithm. He visibly relaxed. Oh, really? I didn't answer, instead tapping open his browser history. One glance was all it took to confirm my suspicions. Dinner's ready, Leo said quickly, walking over and pulling me up from the sofa by my hand. In one smooth motion, he took his phone from my grasp and slipped it into his pocket. I smiled, but said nothing. The meal was tasteless. After dinner, Leo went into his study to work and I went to take a bath. As the warm steam filled the room, memories began to surface. When we were first starting out, we lived in a tiny 300-square-foot rental. In the summer, we had to use a communal bathroom down the hallway, shared by both men and women. It was far from comfortable, and more than once I caught someone trying to peek in on me. The experience left me shaken and terrified. After that, I never took a bath without a small knife placed on the edge of the tub beside me. Leo used to hold me in his arms and promise, Clara, one day when I make enough money, I'll buy you a big house with your very own bathroom. You'll never have to be scared again. Now we had a much bigger apartment, and I had my own bathtub, but Leo was no longer the man I thought I knew. I lay still in the water, letting silent tears stream down my face. Suddenly, my phone, which was sitting on the bath mat, lit up. It was a text message from Dana. Clara, Leo just asked me to transfer another $200,000 to that woman. I sat bolt upright in the water, instantly awake and alert. That was the final straw. I called her without a second's hesitation. Withdraw my dividend right now. Send the full amount to my personal account. I'll handle everything from here. The house, I would buy it on my own. As for Leo, I was done with him. 10 minutes later, a notification confirmed the money had arrived in my bank account. I got out of the tub, got dressed, and began to pack a bag. Just then, I heard soft laughter coming from the study. His voice, gentle and low, drifted out. Sweetheart, as soon as I finish up with this, we'll go see that movie you wanted to. You pick the one, I'll go wherever you want. He sounded so incredibly tender, like he was talking to a child. I let out a quiet, cold laugh and walked straight into the bedroom. I contacted a real estate agent and paid the deposit on a new place. Just as I was finishing, Leo came into the room. Clara, he said casually, there's an issue with the project on the west side of the city. I need to head over there for a little while. I looked at him, studying his face carefully. I'll come with you, I said. It was the last chance I was willing to give him to tell me the truth. But Leo just shook his head. No, it's fine. I can handle it. You should stay here and get some rest. He left in a hurry, not even glancing back at me. He didn't notice that I had already put on my coat and was following him out the door. Leo looked relaxed, even cheerful as he drove across the city, completely unaware that I was in my own car just a short distance behind him. When he arrived at a bustling shopping district, he got out of his car and was immediately enveloped in the arms of a young woman. They kissed, right there on the public sidewalk, as if they had nothing in the world to hide. My hands were trembling as I lifted my phone and took several photos. I watched as they walked into a movie theater together, choosing a romantic film. In that moment, it felt like 1,000 tiny needles were piercing my heart. Leo, how could you be so shameless? But I had no time for tears. I contacted a lawyer immediately and started the process of dividing our assets. When we first started the company, I had borrowed $300,000 from my family for seed money, while Leo had contributed $100,000. Now the company was valued at $30 million, and our next big project was projected to double that. I reached out to a well-connected investor and sold him my shares. When the funds were transferred, the man, Mr. Sterling, asked me, "Wait a minute, I thought you and Leo Vance were a team. Are you two already splitting up?" I smiled and replied lightly, "Mr. Sterling, we were never married. At best, you could call us college friends. But he's found someone new, and I think it's best for me to step away before his future wife starts to feel uncomfortable." Mr. Sterling chuckled, understanding immediately. News of Leo's affair had already started to spread. Everyone in our circle knew I was his long-term partner. My original plan had been to force Leo out of the company, but when I found out that he had not only been wiring money to Nina, but was also trying to prevent me from accessing my own dividends, I changed my strategy. It was better to make a clean, quiet break and put as much distance as possible between myself and a man like him. For the next few days, I focused exclusively on finalizing the deal for my shares and quietly letting a few key clients know that I was stepping down. Leo had no idea what was happening. He just assumed I was taking a much-needed break since I hadn't been in the office for several days. When the transfer agreement was finally signed, I felt a massive weight lift from my shoulders. That was when Leo called me. "Clara, you took out $500,000. Why didn't you tell me first?" His voice was sharp, and I could hear the anger simmering beneath the surface. "I needed it for something urgent," I replied calmly. "We can talk about it when I get back to the office." When I arrived, he was sitting in his office with Dana. I gave her a subtle look, and she quickly made an excuse and left the room. Before I could say a word, Leo frowned and snapped, "It's the end of the year. We have major expenses coming up. You can't just take that kind of money without my permission. I need you to return it now." "I am a shareholder," I said plainly. "This is my dividend. And since I am a co-founder of this company, if you can spend company money however you please, why can't I?" Leo stared at me in shock. "What are you talking about?" "Leo," I said, pulling out the bank statement I had printed. "Nina Croft received $700,000 from you. Would you care to explain that?" His face went pale. He clearly had not expected me to find out. Watching the panic rise in his eyes, I felt nothing but a profound emptiness. "You told me to hold off on my dividend because of pending payments from clients. And what exactly were you doing with the company's money?" Leo's face hardened. "I am the boss here. It was just $700,000. I'll spend it however I want. Who do you think you are to question my decisions?" As soon as the words were out of his mouth, his expression changed and a flicker of regret crossed his face. Clara, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. No, you're right, I said, cutting him off. I have no right. And that's why this is over. Leo, I want to break up. His face twisted in panic. No, Clara, don't do this. You're just being emotional. She just needed some help. He began to stammer. Nina's family was going through a really hard time. I was only trying to lend her a hand. She promised she would pay it all back. I just stood there and watched him scramble to defend her, and in that moment, I knew I was truly done. I know, I said softly. I understand. Relief washed over his face, but it was fleeting. Leo, I said, looking him straight in the eyes. We are over. Clara, are you finished making a scene? I'm not making a scene, I replied, my voice calm and firm. I'm serious. A genuine fear appeared in his eyes. He couldn't even look at me as his voice trembled. Clara, think this through. Don't say things you're going to regret. Just take a few days to calm down. Then, clearly flustered, he turned and hurried out of the room. I watched his retreating back, the corner of my mouth curling into a bitter smile. Leo, we are finished. I submitted my official resignation the next morning, packed up my personal belongings from my desk, and left without a moment's hesitation. When I went to pick up the keys to my new apartment, the real estate agent handed me a small gift with a warm smile. Miss, I hope this place becomes a true home for you in this city. Thank you, I replied sincerely. She had given me a set of bath oils, and by sheer coincidence, they were in my favorite scent. That night, after moving into my new place, I ran a warm bath. The fragrance of the oils enveloped me like a gentle hug, slowly melting away the accumulated stress of the past few weeks. As I lay back in the water and let myself breathe, my phone buzzed with a friend request. I checked the screen. It was from Nina Croft. Well, I hadn't gone looking for her, but she had delivered herself right to my doorstep. I saw no reason to be polite. After I accepted her request, she wasted no time. A series of photos appeared in the chat. Pictures of her and Leo together, smiling and looking cozy, complete with timestamps and watermarks. So much for Leo claiming to be too busy at work. He had actually been out watching movies and shopping with her. Then Nina added a message. Clara, we're just good friends. Please don't misunderstand. If you and Leo broke up because of me, I sincerely apologize. Just friends doing everything that only couples should be doing. And she thought a fake apology would somehow make it all better. I shook my head and didn't bother to reply. People like her weren't even worth my energy. I had no intention of stooping to her level to compete for a man. I blocked her without a second thought. That must have struck a nerve because she immediately started trying to add me back, over and over again. Her messages grew more and more desperate. Clara, 700,000 is nothing to you. Do you really have to be so petty about it? I replied with a single line before blocking her again for good. That's Leo's money. What does it have to do with you? Then, I took screenshots of the entire exchange and sent them to Leo. Control your woman. If this happens again, I won't be so polite. He didn't reply, but at least Nina stopped harassing me after that. A couple of days later, my former colleague Dana sent me some photos. Nina had shown up at the company. Can you believe it? Dana wrote. Leo actually brought Nina into the company. Clara, now I finally understand why you left. There's no arguing with fools. She's only been here for 2 days and has already driven away 2 clients. The project team is on the verge of completely falling apart. That was when I realized Nina had been given my old position as project manager. Leo must have thought I had just left in a fit of anger and that when I came back and saw someone had replaced me, I would come crawling back to him. He really had no idea who he was dealing with. I immediately transferred 30,000 to Dana. Stay there for now. Once I've finished building my new team here, you can switch over anytime you want. Dana agreed immediately. She would act as my eyes and ears on the inside, letting me know what they were planning. Leo kept insisting that Nina was just a friend and that he was helping her through a difficult time. Yet he had brought her into the company and given her my old job. But how long could a relationship built on money and lies truly last? Nina was never suited for that role, and it took less than a week for Leo to realize something was seriously wrong. I still hadn't returned to the office, but my new business partner, Mr. Sterling, had already sent his own people in to take over. Dana called me on video so I could watch the scene unfold. Leo looked completely stunned. When Mr. Sterling presented the signed transfer of ownership documents, he finally understood that I wasn't just angry. I had truly let go and moved on. His face turned as dark as a storm cloud. Dana whispered through the call, "He might come looking for you. Be ready. Nina's been whispering in his ear, trying to turn you into the enemy." I laughed. "And let him come." Sure enough, just as I hung up, Leo showed up at my new apartment. Somehow, he had managed to find my address. He stood at my door, ringing the bell incessantly like a man possessed. When I finally opened the door, he wasted no time. "Clara," he snapped, "do you really have to take it this far? Do all the years we spent together mean nothing to you?" I tapped my ear and gave a small laugh. "Leo, are you being serious right now? What kind of twisted joke is this? You bought that woman a house. You shared ice cream with her on the street. And now you want to come here and talk to me about our old feelings?" I looked him square in the eye. "From the moment you secretly transferred money to her and then tried to cut my year-end bonus, we were completely done." He lowered his head, a clear sign of his guilt. "I didn't think it through," he muttered. "But did you really have to be so heartless? Since Mr. Sterling came on board, I've lost almost all of my influence at the company." I folded my arms and stared at him coldly. "So that's why you're here? Just to complain that you've lost your voice at the office? And now you want me to go back and help you reclaim your so-called throne?" I took a step closer. "Leo, do you have no shame? I don't owe you anything. If you need someone to fight your battles for you, go ask Nina. Her mouth certainly works faster than her brain. And one more thing. Get out. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police." I pushed him out the door and slammed it shut. For a moment, Leo looked like he was going to kick it down, but after glancing up at the security camera above the doorway, he thought better of it and left. After that, he stopped showing up in person. But he did send me a message. "Clara, you will regret this." But regret was a word that was no longer in my vocabulary. I started from scratch and began to build something new. By the end of the year, my initial moves had sent shockwaves through our entire client base. Even Mr. Sterling gave me a call. "Clara, are you really starting your own firm? Come work with me instead. I'll give you a position higher than Leo's." I smiled and replied politely, "Mr. Sterling, working alongside him again would only lead to endless conflicts. I would hate to put you in that position. I'll have to pass." "Fair enough. Let me take you out for a meal sometime," he said with a chuckle. I hung up the phone and looked through my messages. Most people were still hesitant, watching from the sidelines. Just a woman, they thought. What could she possibly achieve without Leo? They seemed to have forgotten that back when Leo and I were first starting our company, he was the one making flashy speeches at the dinner table, while I was the one drinking myself into stomach ulcers to land one deal after another. Now they look down on me. Fine, I would show them. A woman can thrive in this industry. A woman can build an empire. Leo thought the same thing. In his mind, I was just being petty and jealous. Starting a new company, he believed, was all just to prove that I was better than Nina. When I heard people repeating that nonsense, I couldn't help but laugh. My purpose was never to compete with another woman. That's not what I'm here for. Just as my new company was about to launch, Leo came by again. He walked into my temporary office and handed me a bank card. "Clara, don't be mad anymore. Come back. I know you were upset about Nina and the bonus issue. That was my mistake, but here I'm giving you the money. Will you come back now?" I stepped aside and turned to the front desk. "How did he get in? Did he have an appointment?" The young receptionist rushed over. "I'm so sorry, Miss King. I thought he was a potential client." "He's not," I said clearly. "He's our competition." Leo's face turned pale. The receptionist immediately responded, "In that case, sir, please leave at once. If you do not, we will press charges for attempting to steal company information." His face darkened, but I didn't care. I waved her on and let her escort him out. Then, I went back to my meeting with the designers to finalize the layout of our new office space. By the time I finished, night had fallen. To my surprise, Leo was still outside waiting for me. As soon as he saw me, he rushed over and blocked my path. Clara, how long are you going to keep this up? I already told you, Nina and I cut him off. Whatever happened between you and Nina has nothing to do with me, Leo. I'm here to inform you that we have officially broken up. This is not a discussion. It is a notice. According to the messages Dana had sent me earlier, ever since Mr. Sterling took over, he had wasted no time in launching a sweeping reform across the company. Leo had been cornered, step by step, unable to resist the pressure. Even Nina was not spared. One of Mr. Sterling's executives had openly berated her, saying she had no real abilities and only knew how to flaunt her status by clinging to a man. Her projects were full of errors, and her proposals were a complete disaster. Nina had never been spoken to like that before. She broke down on the spot, covering her face and sobbing uncontrollably. When Leo tried to defend her, the executive shot back with a cold sneer, accusing him of trying to pass off mediocrity as talent. Embarrassed and powerless, Leo could do nothing but fall silent. And now, here he was, standing in front of me, offering me money. I gave a soft laugh. Let me guess. You want me to come back and help you fix things, right? I looked him squarely in the eye. Leo, have you lost your memory? He softened his voice. I know you're upset about what happened with Nina. I've already let her go. Come back, Clara. Mr. Sterling said it himself. You have real talent. There's no need to go solo. It's too risky. So let me get this straight, I said coolly. You want me to swallow my pride, come back, and fight your battles for you, all while staying under your thumb? Leo, we are both adults. Save the performance. Your acting is terrible. I pushed him aside and walked away without hesitation. From behind me, he shouted, You'll regret this, Clara. You're just a woman. What can you possibly do? I almost laughed. Did he really think I had no cards left to play? On the day of my company's grand opening, not a single one of the clients who had promised to attend showed up. My assistant was in a panic. President King, how could they do this? They all confirmed, and now they're just ignoring us. I knew exactly what had happened. It was Mr. Sterling's doing. Now that we were direct competitors and with Leo whispering in his ear, it was obvious where his loyalties lay. I smiled and gently patted her shoulder. Don't worry. In business, people follow profits. That's just how this world works. But I was never counting on them to begin with. She looked at me, confused. Before she could ask any more questions, the door to our private dining room opened. A confident, sharp-looking woman stepped inside. Seeing the nearly empty space, she frowned. Clara, I must have overestimated you. Judging by this turnout, it seems you're not exactly popular. I motioned for her to take a seat and replied calmly. Miss Reed, they don't matter. You are the one I came here to meet today. Oh? She said with a hint of surprise. So I was your target all along? Yes, I said plainly. I know you've been interested in expanding into the South City market, but you've been waiting for the right opportunity. I happen to have one, and I've been saving it specifically for you. I handed her a detailed proposal. With second-tier cities driving the growth of smaller surrounding markets and transportation integration accelerating, this model is both timely and viable. I've already selected the ideal location and begun preliminary development. All that's missing is your partnership. Basic retail models don't retain customers, she said skeptically. I nodded. Which is why I've focused on transit-linked development. The area's transit lines connect directly to the city center. Here are the supporting policy documents. I had done my homework. Every aspect, every potential problem, and every solution had been mapped out well before this meeting. Seeing the level of preparation and sincerity in my pitch, Evelyn Reed finally smiled. No wonder when you left to start your own venture, Mr. Sterling said you would be his biggest competitor if you succeeded. He wasn't wrong. She gave me a sharp look. But tell me, am I just another chess piece in your game? No, I answered sincerely. You are a partner in my strategy. I leaned forward slightly. If I hadn't broken up with Leo, you would have been the next person I reached out to. But now that I'm on my own, he doesn't get to benefit from any of this. I want to show them, show everyone, that two women can take on this market and win. I had brought her here based on everything I had learned about Evelyn Reed. I knew she wouldn't say no to that kind of challenge, and I was right. Her expression softened. I poured her a glass of red wine and raised it toward her. Miss Reed, everything is ready. All we need now is the final push. Let's make this launch a success together. Evelyn let out a soft laugh, raised her glass, and clinked it gently against mine. Clara, I really did underestimate you, she said warmly. Here's to a successful partnership between us. On the way back, my young assistant was still in disbelief. President King, am I dreaming? Did that just happen? It went so smoothly. You and Miss Reed just settled everything. I shrugged casually. Why did you think it would be harder? She blinked. Well, all those business dramas on TV make it look like a war. I patted her on the shoulder. That's television. In real life, we don't need to fight to the death. Business is about mutual benefit. Everyone is just trying to get what they want. I added with a knowing smile, Evelyn Reed might not care enough to stand up for me or go against Mr. Sterling, but I'm betting on her ambition. Evelyn was the heiress of the Lynn Corporation. After she got married, her husband had kept her locked away at home, burying the once brilliant star of the business world behind baby bottles and domestic life. For 3 years, she stayed hidden. Her in-laws were never satisfied, and their constant criticism finally pushed her to make a choice. She stepped out, and without relying on her husband, made her own fortune. Eventually, she got a divorce and re-entered the market, ready to compete on her own terms. I never assumed she would admire me, but I was willing to bet that she had ambition. I bet she wanted a bigger piece of the pie, and if I could tap into that hunger, we could take this market together. My assistant stared at me, then raised her thumb in admiration. You really are brilliant. I would never have thought of that. This market is still not kind to women, I told her. People assume if we climb our way to the top, it must be by seduction or by relying on men. They never stop to think that maybe we're just more capable than they want to admit. They criticize women for using our advantages, but the truth is they're just bitter that they don't have any of their own. So, yes, I am good looking. If a client wants to stare, let him. It's not going to cost me a thing. My assistant looked at me with complete awe, and I didn't hide anything from her. To kick off the new year, Evelyn Reed and I publicly announced our joint venture. We pooled our funds and took over a key plot of land on the south side of the city to launch our new project. When Leo saw me like this, thriving and powerful, he panicked. He clearly had not expected me to actually pull it off, let alone partner with someone like Evelyn. He showed up in a hurry while I was in the middle of our celebration dinner. The moment I saw him, I barely recognized the man. It hadn't been that long, but something about him had changed. It wasn't his clothes, they were the same expensive brands. But he had this hollow look in his eyes, like all the life had been drained out of him. Clara, are you really working with her? You finalized the deal? He asked, his voice full of tension. This project carries huge risks. You shouldn't get involved so recklessly. I replied calmly, thank you for your concern, but everything is already in motion. The contracts are signed. There's no turning back now. I have to make it work. Leo's face twisted with anger. You're out of your mind, Clara. You have over $10 million at your disposal. Why would you throw it all into this? Why partner with Evelyn Reed of all people? I looked him up and down, then laughed softly. What exactly are you afraid of, Leo? That I'll rise too fast? That I might actually succeed and make you look useless? When I was with you, it wasn't because I needed you. You were just in the way. I have always been the one who shines. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. I smiled and looked him straight in the eye. So, if I were you, I would start speaking to me with a little more respect. Who knows, maybe one day I'll glance your way again and toss you a lifeline. Oh, and by the way, I waved my phone at him. Your little goddess messaged me again. She said you two slept together. She's even planning to visit your parents during the holidays. So, let's just keep things simple. There's no need for us to be in contact anymore. I would hate for her to lose her mind and come screaming at me again. The moment I said those words, Leo panicked. He grabbed my wrist tightly and stammered, No, it's not what you think. I was drunk. I lost control for a moment. I swear, I'm not going to marry her. I shook his hand off with force. Leo, if you had just admitted everything like a man from the beginning, I might have had a shred of respect left for you. But look at you now, cowering and making excuses. It's hard to believe you're the same person I once trusted. I see now that I misjudged you completely. I held up my phone, showing the recording I had just made of our conversation. If you ever try to harass me again, I will send every single word of this to her. His face turned pale. Clara, you're really something. I met his glare without flinching. Yes, I am. I never forgive betrayal, and I don't give second chances. Now, get out. He tried to follow me, but I kicked him hard in the shin. He stumbled back, clutching his leg, and crouched on the ground, his eyes burning with frustration as he watched me walk away without a backward glance. I added Nina back on social media and sent her the full recording. Her response came fast and furious. Clara, have you no shame? Why are you still clinging to him? Truly a pair of deluded fools. I replied sharply, clinging to him? Please, he's nothing but a failure. Tell your man to stay in his lane. If there's a next time, I'll make everything public. She flew into a rage, but I had already blocked her again. Around that time, Dana officially resigned from Leo's company and joined mine. Before she left, she witnessed quite a spectacle and came back to report it with barely concealed amusement. Nina had stormed into the office and announced to Leo that she was pregnant. She demanded that he take responsibility. Leo's face, Dana said, turned completely green. After that, there was no way he could ever hope to get back together with me. I couldn't help but laugh. Reconcile with me? He wasn't even worth a thought. Leo never truly understood who I was. I am Clara, and when I say something, I mean it. I never go back on my word. If I set my mind to something, I make sure it gets done. Just like back in the early days when I followed him into every single client meeting, no matter how tough the deal, I helped him close it. And now, that same determination was driving me to clean up this entire mess. Nina's pregnancy scandal exploded. Their personal drama spilled into the workplace, and the final straw came when they had a loud argument that turned into a physical fight right in front of a major client. Mr. Sterling had had enough. In a moment of fury, he kicked Leo off the board of directors. He informed him that from that point on, he would no longer be involved in the company's management. All he could do was wait quietly to collect whatever dividends remained. Finally, karma had arrived. I couldn't help but let out a cold chuckle. Meanwhile, Nina had taken her chaos to Leo's family home. After all, this was supposedly the Vance family's first grandchild. Under immense pressure from his parents, Leo was forced to marry her. Before the wedding, he had the nerve to send me a text message. Clara, I regret everything. Can you wait for me? Once I settle things with her, I will come back to you, please. I had never been so disgusted in my life. This man was truly shameless. I took a screenshot of the message and forwarded it to Nina. I have no idea how she reacted, but I do know that after that day, Leo never contacted me again. During the Lunar New Year, I handed out generous bonuses to all of my employees who had worked overtime. Dana came to me with an update, laughing as she spoke. Those who stayed at Leo's company are completely falling apart. Mr. Sterling wasted no time. He began laying people off as soon as he took over. Some of them had sided with Leo, thinking they had picked the winning team, but it turns out he was just dead weight, always chasing unrealistic goals and getting caught up in his personal affairs. And you know how Mr. Sterling operates. If he can't make use of someone, he won't keep them around. Only a few key positions were spared. The rest were cut without a second thought. Leo had stood there, stunned. He had probably wanted to protest, to speak up and stop what was happening, but he no longer had any say in the matter. All he could do was swallow his frustration in silence. Dana later told me that many of the old employees were eager to jump ship and join my company. I paused to think about it, then carefully selected a few of the most reliable ones. As for the rest, I declined without hesitation. Back when I was still at the old company, those same people had had plenty to say behind my back. They whispered that I had only climbed the ladder because of my relationship with Leo, that I was good at charming men and sealing deals through flirtation. I had no intention of working with that kind of crowd ever again. Instead, I kept a few hardworking and trustworthy women on board and even helped them catch up on their social benefits. Once word of that got out, the others were full of regret. The day our project, mine and Evelyn's, was officially launched, we held a ribbon-cutting ceremony together. Leo actually showed up that day, dressed to the nines and arriving early as if he belonged there. When he saw me, his eyes lit up with a trace of joy. But not long after, Nina came hurrying to his side, linking her arm through his as if to declare her territory. That was when I noticed she was clearly pregnant. She stood next to Leo with her chin held high, wearing a smug expression that practically screamed, "Clara, you lost!" I responded with a calm smile. "Mr. Vance, what brings you here today? I don't recall sending you an invitation." Everyone present, former business contacts and colleagues, turned their attention to me and Evelyn. Even Mr. Sterling was there, and his presence alone drew half the room to our side. I gave Leo no special treatment. He scratched his nose awkwardly and said, "Clara, I know I didn't invite you to our wedding. Everything was so rushed. But today your project is complete. I came to congratulate you. I just never thought that after leaving me, you would be doing so well." I let out a short laugh. "Leo, I'm not doing well because I left you. I have always been capable. When I was with you, I only kept a low profile so that you wouldn't feel insecure. The truth is, you were holding me back. Since I left you, I have success, confidence, and even a charming younger man by my side." I waved my hand, and my young assistant walked over. "Miss King, you called?" I reached out and gave his ear a playful pinch, then turned back to Leo. "He's taller, better looking, and has way more stamina than you ever did. Thank you for giving me the chance to upgrade." The moment Leo laid eyes on my assistant, his face turned green. Nina, not to be outdone, sneered and said, "Clara, no wonder you're still playing around. You're almost 30 and still not married. No children either. Let's see if you can even have them when the time comes." I scoffed. "If I want to have children, there are plenty of men willing. I can choose the best genes. But you chose the weakest link in the chain." Nina's face went pale instantly. I turned my gaze back to Leo. "Now that Mr. Sterling has pushed you out, you're left wandering in the cold. Showing up here today, hoping for a lucky break. Are you waiting to speak with Mr. Sterling? I hate to disappoint you, but I doubt he has any interest in seeing you." I tilted my head toward the corner of the room, where Mr. Sterling was deep in conversation with Evelyn, clearly enjoying her company. If beauty can be a strategy, why not use it? Especially when Evelyn is more than capable of holding her own. Taking advantage of the good atmosphere, I raised my voice and made an announcement. "Once this year's project is fully delivered, all employees will receive double the usual year-end bonus." Leo staggered back 2 steps when he heard that, nearly pulling Nina off her feet. "This is all revenge for that $50,000, isn't it?" he shouted. I shook my head. It was never about the money. It was about dignity. "Leo, I worked tirelessly, year after year. I pushed myself to the point of stomach ulcers and still refused to give up. All because I wanted to build a life for us. And what did you do? I'm not here to rehash everything. But let me just say, what you failed was not just me. Not just our past filled with memories and promises. You failed yourself. The man you once claimed you wanted to be. You let him down too." When Leo heard what I said, he immediately lowered his head. "It's my fault," he admitted quietly. "I underestimated you." "No, Leo," I replied with a calm but steady voice. "What you did was overestimate my tolerance for betrayal. Anyone who betrays love, who betrays me, does not deserve a happy ending. I wish you exactly what you seek. May you get what you deserve." Nina's face turned pale, then flushed red, then pale again. I let out a soft scoff and signaled for security to escort them out. Today was my moment, and I was not about to let these bitter people bring their bad energy into my celebration. After that day, I never saw Leo again. From time to time, I heard bits and pieces of news from Dana. She told me that Mr. Sterling had pushed forward a bold reform plan, and Leo was completely forced out of the company. In the end, he sold off his remaining shares. Nina, of course, enjoyed the ride while it lasted. Fine dining, luxury vacations. But rebuilding what they had lost was never going to be easy. She wasn't me. She couldn't negotiate a deal. She couldn't handle business dinners. And on top of that, She had a habit of throwing tantrums every single day. She bought piles of luxury goods and bragged about them constantly. "I'm Mrs. Vance now," she would say. "There's nothing I can't afford." But when Leo's new venture failed, debts piled up fast. He started selling off Nina's luxury items just to pay back what he owed. She finally had enough. One day, she simply packed her bags, left their child with the Vance family, and disappeared without a trace. Leo struggled to find work. When his resume landed on my desk, my company was already thriving. Our business had tripled, and I had become one of the most respected figures in the industry. And him? He wanted to see me, hoping I would give him a job out of some lingering sentiment for our past. But I could only say no, because I knew exactly what he was capable of, and more importantly, what he was not. The truth was simple. The industry had moved on from him, and so had I.